Welcome to part 2 of the UH Studio Academy podcast number 13 with Dion Moult representing BlenderBIM. In this episode, we're going to go hand in hand with Dion and go through BlenderBIM's user interface. Now, the funny thing about BlenderBIM is that it has evolved so much that the user interface has completely changed since this video came out. So should you still watch this? I definitely think so, because in the process I asked Dion a number of questions that probably all of you might have in regards to how to use BlenderBIM. Some of them include drawing capabilities, how to change specific drawing styles, how to tag things, and then thinking about what you can do with native Blender geometry and whether that's an advisable kind of workflow still or not. Now, having said that, if you're really interested in BlenderBIM, you should definitely check out some of the newer videos that are out there in addition to this video over here. And in case you're not familiar with BlenderBIM, make sure you watch part 1 of this podcast episode, which is available on YouTube and also on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you might be listening to podcasts. So without further ado, let's get started.
You can download it and run it on any platform you want. We also support M1 Mac. Is that the right term? M1? Not sure. The ARM devices.
Or ARM Max.
Yeah.
Well, do you support M2 Max then, or is it just
I think
M1?
it's also M2. Maybe I should change this to read ARM instead. Anyway, so we support all platforms. And this is where you can donate to us.
And it's a separate download for each platform. I guess
Correct.
There's some OS-centric code inside of it that needs to address.
That's right. So many thanks to the people who helped donate, who were able to let us create support for the Mac ARM devices, because there was a time where we didn't have that. So it's only thanks to your generous donations that we could do that. Then, of course, once you've downloaded it, you have a place to go and ask questions, so report bugs, ask questions, chat live, donate, and write code. And you can see in the documentation there is a video tutorial series by IFC Architect, who is excellent. To go and subscribe to his channel. You can see there are 15 right now, and they're slowly being updated. This one's 5 months ago, which I guess installing wouldn't have changed that much, but I guess this one would have already seen a number of updates. So if you see something odd in the video, the chances are maybe it's already been solved. So it's pretty interesting.
Now back to the conversation that we had, that essentially BlenderBIM has 2 scopes. And hopefully the part in between as well, but one scope is for Joe, who wants to make his house,
That's
right?
this, yeah.
And maybe it's for his own purposes, or the architect that Joe hired. He wants to have a simplified BIM model and can do the automated thing. And then the other scope is the advanced, development and large complex projects, where maybe in that sense people are using BlenderBIM for a part of the process instead of the whole process, right? So this is right. Joe's house.
Yeah, that's right. And so, for example, Joe's house might not have facility management unless he's a really weird Joe. Cool. All right.
Depends how big his house is.
Yeah, that's right. Might not be Joe then.
500 square meters.
So you can see some text-based descriptions here. This one's a great place to get started if you want a text tutorial. This one just says, here's how you explore IFC for the first time. It presumes no knowledge of Blender and no knowledge of IFC, so it's really easy to use. It says, here's your 3D view, here's your objects, here's your properties, here's a sample model you can download, here's how you use some basic navigation, here's how you see all the objects. Here's, it talks you through the most fundamental basic IFC concepts that you're going to be using 80-90% of the time, in a simple, easy to read, no jargon at all in it document. If you find jargon, let me know. We'll strip it out and make it even easier. So that's the goal of this document. Just a quick shout out to IFC OpenShell itself. I know the target of this podcast is the kind of user-friendly graphical authoring, but if you are a developer, the underlying engine of the BlenderBIM add-on is IFC OpenShell. Everything you can do graphically, you can do non-graphically as well. You can write code for it. You can see some of the things that make it special in the industry, and there are some extensive documentation, and of course the people who support, whether they're supporting by writing code or financially. Okay, so now the fun bit. Let's go and create some IFC data. So um, maybe should I start by loading some IFC data? So maybe I can load this
Maybe, yeah.
we'll load this basic sample model first. Um, oh, this showed up as text. Okay, cool. All right. So this is kind of the thing that the way most people use IFC, right? You have a oh, did I?
Which operating system do you use?
I'm on Linux, Gentoo Linux.
Fantastic.
Okay, so here's the model, and you can see there it's an IC4 model. This is a teeny tiny cute test model. So here we are. We'll load it up, and great. You can see it, you can view it. There's nothing too special so far. And just a quick crash course. Here's the 3D view. Here are some of the objects in a hierarchy that you can see. So this is German. Not sure. Maybe German. Doesn't look English to me. Anyway, so it's got a side to building. It's got some stories and a few spaces in it and some beams and doors and so on. And over here, you can see some properties of the thing that we selected. So I can click on a thing and it will tell me that this is a wall standard case, and it has a name of Wand Ext OG1. It is contained on this story. It is of this wall type. It has a thickness of, this is in meters, I would presume, so it's a 300 millimeter thick wall, and it's got all of these properties. Some of them look specific to ArchiCAD. I assume this model came from ArchiCAD, and so on. And then, of course, you can do the fun thing. This is the thing where you can't do in other software. I can press the edit button. So if I can say, that's not a very nice wall name, we'll call him Waldo the Wall. You can actually do that. And ta-da, you've done it. You've called him Waldo the Wall. And if you're unsure at any time of what things are, you can hover over it, and there's a description. So for example, it tells you, and you can actually go straight to the IFC documentation for that attribute. So there's descriptions everywhere about what things are. If it wasn't meant to be a wall, here are all the other things he could be. Again, with descriptions of what all these things are. What's a slab?
Is that list pop-up searchable?
Yes, here.
Great.
So if I want to get all my chillers, for example, great, and so on. But of course, you can do it in a big
And
list.
if you
Some
wanted
people like that.
and what how do you create a drawing of this?
Okay, so if we were to, in fact, this will be interesting because this is where we start finding problems with the way that many of the proprietary vendors create their models. So we could create a drawing right
Mm,
now, and I'll have to excuse me for a moment because this is actually a time where I am heavily editing the drawing system. So there are a few features I've disabled and a few
okay.
things which are totally a work in progress. So if it all crashes and burns, that's the excuse I have. So let's give it a shot here. So there's currently 0 drawings. So a drawing is actually just a document, right? That's what a drawing is. It's a document. So
And is that stored inside of the
yeah.
IFC?
So oh dear, which one is the first floor? I don't speak urge cross. Okay, let's create a plan of the urge cross. That would be like level 1 or something, I assume. There it is. Great. So great. We've got our urge cross plan, and that's our drawing. So we'll scale it down a little bit, and we'll just center that, and we'll just blindly create our drawing and just see what happens. Great. We've got a drawing. It's a pretty, um, pretty empty drawing, which is fine. We haven't done anything yet with it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll
Yeah.
notice that, for example, there are no door swings. There are no, I don't know if these are sliding windows or something. So all those annotations are missing. And that's because in this particular case, there is no annotation data being exported out by ArchiCAD. And this is an interesting fact of IFC in that in traditional 3D packages, you have an object which has 3D geometry and that's it, end of story. Whereas in IFC, an object may have multiple geometries, because that's the way our industry works, right? A door might have one geometry in 3D, another geometry in 2D, another geometry for its clearance zone, and so on. So it would have multiple
Okay, so
geometries.
this is a little bit like in Revit, how you can manually create an elevation, manually create a section, and manually create a plan, which may or may not represent what's actually in 3D.
Correct. Or you might create a plan-specific symbol that is drawn that augments the 3D representation. So this has nothing to do with Revit here. Like in as an architect, when you draw a window in elevation, firstly you draw the way it actually looks, but then on top of that you might draw some dashed lines, maybe like a triangle shape, right, to
Mm-hmm.
show the opening, or an arrow if it
Yep.
slides, and that is a 2D embellishment on top of it. So you might include those types of geometry in addition. So if I just scroll past over here and take a look at this window's geometry, you can see that this window only has two geometries associated with it. It has the body shape of it, which is which is this shape you see over here. Sorry, this is a door I'm looking at, not a window. Anyway, uh, and it has a box, which is a bounding box, and that's a bit useless to us for drawings. It's good for doing computational things like clash detection, but it's pretty useless for drawings. So that's why this plan looks a little bit sterile. But yeah, we could, in theory, start adding in these extra annotations and so on top.
So how would you do that? Is it something that you have to do somewhere separately?
Um, no, you can do it straight in here. So in fact, let's give it a shot. So IC has a concept known as, and now we're getting a little bit technical, as representation context. This is your menu of different types of geometries that you can store in objects. So for example, we might want to store um, a plan specific body representation of that window. So we might say in a plan view, we want to have an override. So don't show the 3D cut of it, show it in a particular planish way. So great, I'll add that to my list. And let's do it for this door. So we'll say, all right, let's go and add a plan annotation. Sorry, if we want a plan body plan view. And let's go start editing that. So now I'm just going to really quite dodgily drawing this in. Um, so just very, very dodgy.
And how are you drawing this in now?
This is just pure
Is
Blender.
that part of BlenderBIM's
Uh,
toolset?
just pure Blender BIM. There's just pure Blender. There's nothing special about Blender BIM in this. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm just, it's, you can see it's taken the existing geometry as a baseline, and now I'm just editing the bits of it that I want. So I'll just delete that. Okay, great. We'll delete that edge as well. But
And if that wall, or rather, if that element, so that door in this case is an instance, this would,
go across all the
this
doors.
should
Yep.
update itself.
Yep.
Yeah.
So assuming ArchiCAD has done that correct. So assuming ArchiCAD has correctly made it so that all occurrences, that's the IC word for instance, share
Yeah.
the same or map the same representation as they call it, then yes, editing this one door would mean all the doors of the same type, so they have to be the same type, right? Will have
Mm-hmm.
this new door swing annotation. So great. And by the way, I mean, Blender BIM does add a series of CAD functions. So for example, if I had, two lines that I want to do an extend or, a trim, all those types of things that you might expect, or draw a 3-point arc or fillet things or so on. It's all in there.
Do you have an offset tool?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a really useful one, isn't it?
Really?
Right. So let's
Okay.
say we got a few lines here. Oops, sorry. Sorry, we selected the wrong thing. And then let's do shift offset. That's one side, and of course I could choose the other side or whatever. Yeah, we'll delete that.
Nice.
Yeah, just the usual CAD stuff you might expect. But just now while drawing this, I didn't use any of those tools. So yeah, so great. We've got our little door. So now, that's no good. That's really poor. Um, ah, hmm, hmm, hmm. Look at that. There's been bugs, and I'll have to see why that occurred. So in theory, that should have worked, but I can see that I've actually lost. Um, I've lost a representation here, which is no good. You can see that that
Mm-hmm.
door here has actually disappeared. So I'll need to see what's
Okay,
going on.
maybe
Um,
you said that there is some presets that come into uh ArchiCAD into Blender BIM, right? So did you like can we insert like a Blender BIM door into some of these walls then?
yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look. So we can go into we want to load in our library. So I've got a series of libraries here. There's one which comes with it, known as the demo library. So I can go and load in a door, for example. Great. Now we have that door in our library, and I can go and add that door. So by the way, we'll see a list of our stuff in our libraries here. You can see this is the one I've just loaded in from my library. Here are some which already existed in the project. So in theory,
Mm-hmm.
I can go add my door in there. Now you can see that the door has actually cut an opening in that wall. Now you can see that the wall, the door hasn't been kind of. So let me just isolate this. You can see that the door has made a cutting, but that cutting hasn't quite gone through the whole wall. So the question is, why? Is that a problem with how ArchiCAD is defining their wall? So for example, and this one I know the answer, it is. So um, over here, so in this case, the reason this door hasn't been properly embedded into this wall is because of the way that ArchiCAD has described this wall parametrically. So walls have a certain convention or axis that they're meant to follow in IFC. And I don't want to make this tutorial about this was not a tutorial. I don't want to make this showcase about describing some of these errors you'll find in ArchiCAD. But I think what this demonstrates to you is that when you start working with IFC natively, you start finding all of these errors in the way that IFC data is managed or expressed that you may not realize in proprietary BIM software. So this one has caused some things to succeed and some things not to succeed. But if it followed all the rules of a wall, you should be able to do exactly as I'm doing here. And we're getting there. We're getting better and better. This model is from 2016, so it's a very old model. Potentially newer versions of models from ArchiCAD and Revit will just work.
Okay, I see. So that's the kinds of books you're talking about. That's all right. So how about like doing a few other things in this, like maybe adding like room tags and areas and like some dimensions?
Well, again, we could do that. I'm just worried that again we'll run into more issues in
Okay.
ArchiCAD. So what I'm
Oh,
thinking is maybe we do it on a fresh set, which
yeah,
that's
sure.
like
I
a
mean, it's like
2016 ArchiCAD model. Um,
let's design a house in 5 minutes.
yeah, that's right.
You've got
Let's
it.
try that. Let's go 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 go
I'm
go.
I'm counting down. I'm starting the timer now,
Okay, I'm going
Dion.
to cheat. I'm going to use the demo library. It comes with a bunch of assets, which you see here. So I've got a few
Perfect.
beam types over here. That's all you need to build a house, right? Just those two beams. You need 3 walls. Oh, I've got 4. I've got like a 50 millimeter wall. Anyway, so let's do that. So let's start with some nice exterior walls, 200 thick.
And how do the assets work in Blender BIM? Are they related to Blender's asset library or
Not
does it have its own kind
It's
of
pure IFC
asset?
assets. like I can actually
Okay.
bring in. In fact, we'll do that. Um,
Yeah.
we will bring in an asset from that IFC, that ArchiCAD model, and use it here. We'll steal some of their furniture or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's create, and I'm just eyeballing these dimensions here. You can put in real dimensions here if you wanted. I'll just cut that short.
I remember, by the way, at some point there was some kind of integration between Blender BIM and another popular add-on for Blender called ArchiCAD.
ArchiCAD, yeah.
Is that still exist
Sorry,
or has
ArchiPack.
this kind of Archipack?
ArchiPack.
Sorry, yes,
Uh,
confusing my archies
yeah.
here.
Um, Ever since we migrated to native IFC, the integration has not been as close as I'd hoped. So I think it will occur again in the future, but not right now.
Yeah. Okay, but in the meantime, it seems like there's very good native wall making tools and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Drawing walls is a very friendly task for it. So I'll create a door here, and there we are. We have a door. Let's create a couple of windows. Oops, select that wall, put it here. Maybe create one over here. Cool. Have a few windows. Might want to go into those rooms. Hey. So here I am. I'll move that door along. And these are all parametric, right? So this wall, like if I create a junction there, it knows that um, this wall is connected. So if I go down here, it says it's connected at start and at end. And in fact, it has the priority. You can see it's how it's overriding. It's overlapping the other wall. So if I move this guy, for example, here, you can see that the other walls stretch with it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so let's go and add in a slab or something. Let's create a new slab. Okay, so now the slab is a profile. So we're editing the profile of the slab. So we'll put that here. Doo-doo.
So this slab is also using all of BlenderBIM's editing capabilities.
Yeah, that's right. So it's just a pure IFC slab. This is not a mesh, even though we're in Blender. So this slab, for
Mm-hmm.
example, is a swept solid. It's a little extruded profile. And that means it understands things like, so for example, if I extended that out a little bit, it understands things like true
Okay,
arcs.
just like in Revit, or even FreeCAD, sketch-based
Yeah, correct. So here we
edits.
have a circle, which I'll just plonk somewhere.
Can you define some sort of parametric relationships, let's say, between a wall and the slab? So if you move the wall, they align?
At the moment, the slab edge and the wall do not have a parametric relationship, but I can have a wall that extends up towards another object, like a slab or a
Mm-hmm.
roof. So that type of parametric relationship does exist. Yeah. So, but
And
yeah, I
can the
guess
height be governed can the height be covered by a level? So let's say you have a level that you mark at plus 3 meters, and could all the walls then go up to that level?
currently there's no parametric constraint that does that. So you'd have to
Mm-hmm.
do it manually. So effectively, you'd select all the walls, you'd click here, and you'd select the height, and you set it to be, I don't know, 2 meters high. Voila. I didn't select the internal wall, so there we go.
And can you group, let's say, this and then duplicate it on another level on top?
Um, you can. I'll show you how.
Sorry, I'm asking here
Yeah, I know what you're
a
getting
bunch of
at.
crazy questions.
Again, so the concept of a typed group or an instance group or a mapped group, there's no real term for it at the moment, is still being debated at Building Smart on the best way to represent it. So it's not
Okay.
currently possible, but you can do similar things that and I mean it's only a matter of time until this is solved. I feel um, so. For example, if I let's get my building story here. All right, so I just created a few more building stories. They're all called building story. Let's call this, I don't know, level 1, level 2, level 3. Do. Great. So what I can do, for example, if I grab this slab is on uh, my story, but I can go and take him and I'll say, oh, by the way, I want you to be on all those other stories as well. And this will go and, push it up to those stories. So
Okay.
yeah, it's like I said, we're still working a lot of on making it more painless to do more common tasks. So we're getting there. But what you're
Yeah.
asking for, I know what you're asking for. No, you can't do it. Like a typical floor, right? It's just exactly the same. No, can't do it right now.
Yes. Okay.
Anyway, so great. So we got a few things here. There are also parametric um, slabs and stairs and columns and whatnot. So I'll just add a column here, for example. Sure, line them up over there. We'll add a stair, for example. Um, Okay, so we'll create a new
And
stair.
from those instances that you did of the slabs, could you boolean in or out elements just for that specific instance, let's say on the third floor, but not on the other floors? Or
Yes,
is it
absolutely.
in this current case?
Yeah, you can
You
do that.
can.
Yeah. So the
Wow.
and again, there's a few
That's
ways.
already more advanced than what Revit does.
So, for example, in this particular slab, for example, if I wanted to, um, I can create um, an internal boundary of the profile, or I can create a semantic boolean. I can say that actually I want to go and add a void. So this will be my void object. Let's go add the void there, and there we
hmm
go. I have my void. So yeah, you can do those.
But is that footprint of the level still linked to the original level? Or is it just a duplicate now?
This way I've done it here is a duplicate, so there's no link.
Okay.
Uh, Again, I know what you're getting at. It's all possible. It just yeah, gotta build the UI first and
Yes.
so on. Anyway, yeah, but it's,
Cool.
it's exciting. We're
Yeah.
getting to that stage of this kind of usability. Um, anyway,
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
was going to throw in a stair. So, we have a clever stair now. Cool. We have a clever stair. Where is he? On this floor of the building. Okay. Well, I expected him to be. Um, I didn't. I forgot I was on this floor. Anyway, so here we have our stair, and you can see the stair parameters over there. So let's just toss him here. Actually, do I? Oh, I don't have that excellent CAD transform tool, because that's the tool you want to be lining this up. There's another add-on. You know the one I'm talking about, CAD transform, which lets you.
Yep. By actually Steven, who's the Archipack developer.
That's right. It's an amazing add-on. That's what I would use to move the stair, but I don't have it right now, so you're just going to see a floating stair. Anyway, so you can change the width and the height and so on, and the tread runs and so on. Anyway, I'm not going to edit that right now. And
Uh, to
yeah,
continue my series of questions out there, and I probably already know the answer, but can you add automatic parapets to your stairs yet?
no. Later. Ask again in 6 months. Or yeah. So look, there's a priority list of default out of the box shape generators that we're building. So
Yeah.
roofs, monolithic stairs, steel tread stairs, certain basic types of railings and so on. Then we'll start getting to more.
It's not an easy task. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not an easy task at all, because you essentially have two things going on here, right? Which I guess can be confused for the same. One is the IFC element of it, which is purely, like you said, semantic, right? It's understanding, it's reading, it's maybe lightweight editing. But on top of that, you've created a whole new, let's say, software, right? For
Yeah,
BIM editing and generation. So,
absolutely.
and I know that takes a lot of time to build up to a level of user usability, UI usability, that people can do like a decent project with. So that's not an easy
Oh, it's
task. I'm
not.
not.
No, but
Yeah,
I'll be outright frank with you. There's certain things which are definitely not done yet. Um, yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
but and that's the thing,
Otherwise,
right?
we wouldn't be in alpha,
Yeah, that's
right?
right. Yeah, it'd be beta, and or stable.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess it's that pain threshold, right? I mean, if you're a really experienced Blender modeler, you just whip up a parapet yourself, right? You just model it yourself. Some things you wouldn't.
And I come from the other end of the spectrum. Actually, maybe I'm like the 10% of the 10% of the 10% of the 10%, right? Who models really well in Blender, and now I'm just thinking of ways where I can incorporate Blender BIM into my workflow, and kind of have the two talking to each other.
I completely understand, because I'm also a Blender modeler, right? I can wizard my
Yeah,
way through Blender modeling as well. So yes, I totally get it. Like, yeah, I can model super cool things, but shifting around boxes all day, is that, I mean, it gets dry pretty quick. Stairs as well, they also get pretty dry pretty quick. But yeah, there we have it. And there's a few other of these, like you can see, a door, for example. Like, so this is a parametric door. If I just bring up the door, you can see all of the parameters to it. Anyway, we'll delete that door. We're not interested right now. And there's big asset libraries of every single steel profile. So for example, actually first, before I do anything, it's very important that we put the rabbit in here. So we'll put the rabbit. in the house. He's a very cute.
Is that your rabbit?
Yeah, it's my cute. Well, it's the Stanford bunny, but yeah, between you and me, it's my cute cinnamon
Oh,
rabbit.
okay.
So you can see here, for example, we got EU steel as well, I think, and we're prepping a few more. So we've got every single type of standard steel profile is all there. So if you want to go and suddenly say, I want a 200 UB in my project,
And is that list searchable? Yes. Okay, cool.
yes, yeah, I wasn't sure for a moment there. I guess it was. What was I bringing in? Beam? So there it is. So you can see there's my 200 UB. Yeah, and we can go and bring that beam there. Maybe not on the floor. That's not too interesting. Extend them to that wall. Great. Um, yeah, let's create a little array of these beams. Um, and we'll globally shift them along the y-axis by, let's say, sorry, that's a silly number. Let's create a few of them. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so there's a few things happening here, right? We've got parametric relationships. This guy knows he's a child of this parent, which has the array going on. This guy knows that he's got
Okay.
parametrics
So
there.
there are some level of instances that are already available. It's just the groups of elements cannot be arrayed yet.
Correct. So there's a few. Yeah, it's slowly coming. um, so yeah, and then of course the one click, and I really hope this doesn't glitch out on me. So let's say we want to have some spaces. So where's spaces? This is the one
Maybe
click
save
for.
it just in case.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, the space, and this is a non-geometric type. We'll call this. This is a terrible UI. This has got to be improved. Anyway, so we've got our occupancy space. You can see the generate button over there. So I can now go and generate a space in here. Maybe I should have a floor plan. I'll just get that guy out of the way there. Oops, that was a Shift H instead of Shift G. There we are. So I've now got my 3 spaces. Fantastic. And of course, now we'll throw in a roof.
A little UI suggestion. It would be great if those space boxes boundaries are just by default have like some sort of transparent material to them.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, totally got to do that. Whoa, what's this funky like inverted roof path? That's just really nasty. Yeah, we've recently got the you can see this roof tool is not very good at the moment. It's kind of I can't see through it, and for some reason is going down. So we'll fix that. So this is a kind of a new thing. We're kind of adding this new roof tool. So yeah, maybe we'll just leave this roof alone for the moment. Not sure why he's going down. That's a pretty funky thing. Look at that upside down roof. Anyway, we will have a working roof tool. We'll fix that for the next release. It did work before. We'll figure that one out.
Could it be like that you were selecting something and it was reading it to go on the face of that, whatever the face normal was?
Beats me. Um, yeah, I have no idea. Let's try it a different way. Just curious here. If I okay, whatever. I'll override that anyway. We'll add a roof. Go add to the roof. Yeah, it's going down. Don't know. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
That's right.
So yeah, don't draw roofs. Not a good idea. Um, so,
So a question for those spaces that automatically get calculated. If you move walls around, would they get
yeah.
adjusted?
So at the moment, you press a button to adjust it. So remember, I was
Okay.
moving around this wall because he knows he's connected. So in the same way, it's
Yeah.
like I've moved it. You can adjust yourself. Similarly, this guy can adjust himself. So he knows that he's bounded.
Brilliant.
Um,
And then how do you add dimensions
right.
onto
So
this?
currently dimensions, and again, we're still working on things, so don't.
This video is sponsored by all the Patreons who are just like you and like to use Blender for architecture design. Thank you so much to all the sponsors. And if you like content like this, then please consider becoming a Patreon where you get a number of perks, which you can check out on patreon.com/uhstudio, also in the description below the video.
Mind the random error messages that are popping up here and there. Yeah, so you just add a dimension, And tell you what, I'm just going to save this. Just load it back up. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so let's make this a little smaller. So by the way, for example, you see that triangulation happening there? That's purely a detail of
Mm-hmm.
Blender. It's not a mesh. It knows it's a solid extrusion and all that. So I guess this
Okay.
is the thing which trips people up. They're like, it's all faceted. Like, no, not really. It's just the way it is. Um, and that's something that we will improve over time. So you can see here, I'm just adding just some regular dimensions and so on. There's nothing too special about this. And if I create my plan, there we go. We've got a simple plan going on. It's got some dimensions. We'll throw in some grids, and um, I'll get it to. You can tag things. We're in the middle of building a type-based tagging system, so you can go. You can create a template of space tags having a name and an area, for example, rounded to two decimal points, and you just go click, click, tag, 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 done, done, done. But doesn't exist yet, so maybe check back in 2 weeks because that will be out in the next release. Um,
Definitely be out by the time this video is out then.
yeah, yeah.
So guys, try it out.
Uh,
Uh,
oh, that's an interesting.
are those dimensions
I
parametric? Are they linked
No,
to something?
at the moment they're not, and that's one of the big requests. And I think you asked that last time as well. They are not linked. Um,
Okay.
there are plans for it to be linked. There's still a few things to be solved first. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, all in a good time, I guess. Just keep
And
on
then
chugging away.
room tags, or is that what you're adding now?
Yeah, I'll add a room
No,
tag
that's
over
just
here.
regular text.
Yeah, so let's call this. I'm just naming the space actually. So room 101, for example. So that's the IFC data says that he's a room 101. So right now this is arbitrary text, right? So for example, he's an arbitrary text that says whatever I want, but I can get him to go and tag a room. So let's do that. At the moment, you can see there's a few clicks involved, but this will get in 2 weeks when this is released. Is it 2 weeks? 3 weeks? When the next release is out, this will be tagging as you expect it to be, tag, tag, tag. But here's the manual approach right now. I say it's related to this space. So now there's a semantic relationship. The tag knows it's related to the object. So now I can start using variables in it. I can get the name, for example, and now it knows it's tagging room 101 intelligently, right? If I change that, it changes the other and so on. So that's the manual click, 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 link up the two.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, hopefully that makes
And
sense.
area, can you put that in the
Yeah,
tag as
absolutely.
well?
So for example, this space right now has no area. You can see that there's no quantities. So I'm just going to, again, manually, but there is actually like a calculate all button, which we're kind of debating about that. Like, should you really calculate all? Like, it's sort of a liability issue there. And anyway, so
Maybe with a warning. It might be good if you want to kind of recalculate all kinds of things, you know?
yeah, which one is it? I think calculate quantity. Here we are. Okay, so yeah, cost item controls, blah, blah, blah. We'll take a look at that. See, this is why I slightly worry about these things, giving live demos on my dev machine, because I know there's all sorts of funky stuff happening. But yeah, see that? See that? It's trying.
It's a good stress test.
Well, I should prepare more for these things. I shouldn't be like, yeah, no worries. I'll just. Anyway, you can see it's actually trying to get cost item assignments, which is not correct. Clearly,
Okay, so in 2 weeks it will work.
in 2 weeks it will work. In fact, let me screenshot this so I
Okay,
remember.
a couple of other questions in documentation. Is there a way for you to change the material, how the layout of the walls, let's say, maybe they're not black or they're
Yeah,
gray or something like
absolutely.
that?
By the way,
And
we'll,
can you
yeah,
add, yeah,
we'll just quickly do.
sorry, can you add materials to the floors? And can you have like a different material and different floor? Or is that something that's linked to the different material in different rooms rather?
Well, you'd have different floor objects for different. I'm assuming you're talking about things like carpet and tile and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Answer is sort of. We are still in the middle of developing hatching on projected elements. So it's on the to-do list. it is being actively developed right now. We have a solution. It's just being worked on for scalability. Just a moment here before I forget. Well, I want to tag these quantities, slab-based quantities, and see how I'm doing a lot of typing here. These are some of the pain points that I want to address. I want to just say tag, and then you select from the list, right? That's the way it should be.
Yeah, some kind of pop-up.
Um,
That would be
so now
nice.
I have to manually type in that this is the thing that I'm tagging, and now that I have it, maybe I misspelled it. Um, Space-based quantities, gross floor area. Space-based quantities. Oh, space. See, I spelled that wrong. Space-based quantities, gross floor area. Okay, there we go. And I have it. And of course, I can run some rounding things on it as well. So I can round that to the nearest 2 decimal points or something like that. And then right now,
Mhm.
you just see it in an ugly way, like one text over the other, but I can specify a tagging symbol. So it can have like boxes and circles and hexagons and all those types of fun stuff. Um, I don't have any built into the library, and it'll take too long for me to create one in this little demo, so I won't do it. Um, but yeah, there will be these little, we'll come out of the box with some circles and rectangles that you can use for these kind of, you know how they do it. What were you asking?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we come with some hatch patterns built in. So the way that drawing works is, so there you can see that the display issue is displaying one on top of another. That's okay. We'll go in. We'll go and get that ready once we have our library of different types. Maybe for now, I'll just put them on different alignments, so at least you can read them. So uh, where were we? Um, the way the drawing works is that the drawing is actually styled using CSS. So this is a little bit of a technical bit here. So CSS is the language used to style a lot of things. One of the things being the internet. Web pages are styled using CSS, all their colors and fills and so on. SVG, which is the language we use for drawings, are also styled with CSS. So you can define your own CSS style. So you can create your own definition saying that all concrete uses this hatch pattern and has this line thickness and such and such. And exactly as how you would do it in Inkscape, just you distribute this little style sheet file. So every drawing, so this drawing knows that he actually has this default CSS being applied. This set of markers, this set of symbols, these sort of hatch patterns being loaded in with this drawing. And you can define your own presets. Of course, we ship out of the box with a few. So out of the few that we come up with, I think if I just as a demonstration, we made it so that if you name it concrete, it gets a concrete hatch pattern. If you name it brick, it gets a brick hatch pattern, and so on. So let's give that a shot. Let's call this concrete, and let's call this brick. And this is a type I'm calling here. So there you have it. We have some concrete and brick. Currently, you see these lines in between the walls. That's because I'm in my debug mode. Don't worry, in a real drawing, it will be displayed properly, not without those weird cuts that you see here. This is just on my debug machine. I have those turned on.
Nice. And line weights, would it be the same way?
Yeah, so you can already see that the default concrete actually has a thicker line weight than the brick.
Yeah.
And so that's all totally up to you. You can just dial it yourself. Um, so yeah, totally up to you how you want to style things. You can also create styles for text as well if you want certain dimensions to be red, or whatever you want. Um,
Um, those assignments, CSS assignments, are they independent than a material that you would give of the IFC, or is it the same?
so what happens is that your objects have a lot of data, right? It has names, it has
Yep.
materials, it has quantities, and so on, and properties. When you create a drawing, you say what data should this drawing contain. You might want to say, by default, it contains material data. That's pretty important for most drawings. It contains names or IDs if you want to have, and you can choose whatever data you want in there. And then your CSS can target those data. So the CSS will say all concrete things should look like this. Or it can say all fire rated things of a fire rating of X should look like this. I'll demolish things with a phase of this shall look like this. So you can create these filters in your CSS effectively that target the data. So it knows, for example, this is the code behind those walls. It knows that that's a column. It's being cut. This column has no material compared to this wall, which is made out of concrete, and it has an ID. But I can go and tell it extra material, extra metadata to populate in this. So your drawing can change real time, or it can be interactive. Like I could hover over it and it would tell me that the concrete, it's so much richer than the kind of layer based or just PDF styles in the past.
Mm, okay. And at the moment, that SVG has to be edited in a text editor. Is there a way to manipulate that within Blender BIM?
The CSS needs to be edited in a text editor at the moment. I guess we should build an interface to edit that CSS. A bit hard to design a good interface for that. It's a pretty technical thing. Um,
I wonder if there might be like open libraries that you can place inside of Blender BIM to deal with this sort of thing, which is UI like I don't know, like color pickers and things like that.
yeah, possibly. Yeah. I mean, I think that the way it would work is that we'd get a good set of defaults and people would generally create their own and then just kind of stick with it. It's not something you'd be changing again and again and again. So it's not a huge priority to make that. We got other fish to fry at the moment, but I totally get what you mean. And in fact,
Yep.
one of the things that we're looking at doing is building in more extensions to Inkscape, for example. I mean, if you want to lay out your sheet, for example, you wouldn't do it.
Yes, I was gonna say about that. How do you put on a title block on this drawing now?
Well, you
Can you do
wouldn't do
that
it
in
on a
Blender
drawing.
BIM
You do
or?
that on a sheet, right? So we've got a few title blocks loaded in. You
Yeah.
can have your own. Um, so let's create an A3 title block. And it's created a new sheet. You can see the sheet number and all that. You can see it's got the title block of A3. I can change it and so on. And I can go and insert that drawing onto that. And that's what it looks like, right? I've got my little plan on a drawing. And if I wanted to do some fancy things to it, I can do that in Inkscape. But
Mm-hmm.
these underlying variables are all linked from IFC. So the fact that it knows that it's called my story plan, it's a number one, it's a
Yep.
untitled, this drawing number, which revision, and so on. It all comes from IFC. So just to give you an idea, the under the hood looks like this. See all these kind of replace me type of things, right? You put in these variables and you can
Mm-hmm.
lay it out however you want, um, and then you get your sheet.
Cool. And is there a way to, let's say you're working with like a multi-story building, 5, 6 floors. Is there a way to like automate like the drawing creation process for 5, 6 floors?
We've recently implemented a duplicate drawing button. Um,
Mm-hmm.
still needs a bit more polish, um, but yeah, there's quite a few things changing in here right now. Uh, Other than that, no, we don't have like a duplicate across.
And and the commands, is it easy for somebody to make their own scripts with Blender BIM operators?
Whoa, you're speaking to the wrong person because I'd say sure, but somebody might might disagree with that. Um,
You know what I mean? Like a 4 line code, four line, like piece of code that says, import BPY, import. I don't know how you would import Blender BIM in there, or if it is loaded, I guess it's already part of BPY, right? So and then you say BPY ops, dot
yeah,
Blender BIM
so
dot make drawing or something like that.
Yeah, so in fact, we can try that right now. See, you can see I'm hovering over there. It says, I don't know if you can read this. It says duplicate drawing, so I can go and
I can't.
okay. Well, let me
It's tiny on my screen here
copy
at the
that
moment.
command, paste it in here. So if I press that button, this is the command that's running under the hood. Now, of course, the magic sauce
Okay.
is this 3213. That's the ID of the drawing that I'm duplicating. So
Yeah.
if I wanted to right now, I could literally just write a code that presses that 10 times and I'd have 10 drawings. Um, and I think that's pretty simple. But again, I'm maybe the wrong person to ask.
Yes. Okay. So you can do it. Cool. And how? the SVG engine,
There we
can it
go.
handle a lot of data?
I've got 10 drawings now. Eh.
Nice.
Sorry, can it
Eh,
handle a lot of data? Don't see why not.
Like complex elevation. Let's say you're trying to do a drawing of a fairly complex elevation with lots of lines, lots of geometrical elements, lots of mullions, would it be able? I
Yeah,
guess I have to test
don't
it
see
out,
why
don't
not.
I?
We've done demos where we've got SVGs of pretty complex shapes, and at the end of the day, I mean, you look at a PDF, right? It loads fine in your browsers. It's no different with SVG. Um,
Yeah. I guess the SVG will be generated. I suppose what I'm saying is how quickly would it generate it?
right. Okay. Well, I guess that's a factor of a few things, like the complexity of your geometry, specifically the geometry type. Um, so right now, I mean, we've run it on medium-sized projects. I've never run drawing generation on a huge project. I have run it on a medium-sized project. It's
Yeah.
annoying. I wouldn't recommend it. Small projects are
Okay.
fine right now, so there's still a lot of work to be done um, on the scaling side of things. But that's okay. You do it one step at a time, right? You just keep chipping away at it, making it faster and faster.
Okay. Because maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but maybe I share my screen just for a second here to show you
Yeah, sure.
and see what you think of it. Okay. So my Blender work is a little bit on the other end of spectrum when it comes to complexity. So I'm always curious, because I design these fantastic, concept designs, but I'm always thinking of the next step, which is quite difficult, is to translate this kind of object into something that's a little bit more buildable, right? Beyond like the graphics of it.
Hmm.
So that I'm always curious whether BlenderBIM could handle something like that in order to BIMify it in a way.
Yeah. So look, this is not an overly complex shape, um, especially if it's a single mesh. The I guess I don't know how much detail you have in that mesh. Do you go down right to the cross sections of every single facade bit? Um,
I can show you a cross section actually. It's not terribly complicated, but it's not the simplest either.
right. So the issue here is that we're still struggling with proper representation of curved or complex tessellated geometry. Um,
Yeah.
so when you have solid geometry, there's a clear definition of that solid. If you have a
Mm-hmm.
circle extrusion, you know that it's the ends of the circle um, or the perimeter of the circle that gets drawn in a technical drawing. Whereas in a
Yeah.
mesh, especially a subdivided mesh, it's less certain. And that's why there are all these things in Blender like freestyle. What's the new one? The line art.
I've seen conversations about it, but I'm not sure what it's called
The
either.
line art
I
one, I think.
suppose like yes. So in a case like this, what could happen is that I can mark some edges, right, to be sharp
Correct.
or part of a vertex group or something like that,
Yes.
it and then we can say that okay, maybe those are the only ones that get an outline.
Correct. So if there was information like that, then it becomes significantly cheaper.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't be hesitating here. I still hesitate, but I wouldn't hesitate as much. Uh,
I wouldn't expect you not to
yeah.
hesitate.
Um, yeah, but if you didn't have that metadata, then that would be a challenge. And that's some of the things that we struggle with. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Maybe next time. Maybe next
Uh
time we talk, I'll say, "Oh, remember that building?"
I'm sure I have 20 more examples for you by then.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Keep on pushing it because that's how this stuff gets solved, and that's how we make it a reality for everyone.
No, I really wish to be able to try these things out and push them a little bit beyond the concept stage in Blender. But I don't know how much I can do that, right? Whether even if it's advisable, because the typical workflow so far for projects like that would be to completely rebuild it, in Rhino and kind of use solids in many cases. Or I mean, I can still use in this case here. Let me share the screen again.
But actually, that because of that workflow, I think it actually, because in the process of generating it in Rhino, or it doesn't matter, not Rhino, but the way you generate it is that you would start from those outlines which you would later on make sharp or make as prominent edges. So you would already have that data that we need, that metadata, which are the important edges in the generation of the shape itself, right?
Well, this one is like tessellated. So it starts out with these, and then on each one of these panels, each one of these faces, we get one of these panels here,
Yeah,
like that. Of course, again, because this is very early concept, if this were to actually get built or get advanced more, there would be a process of rationalization because
correct.
right now each one of these panels is a
It's unique.
different
Yeah, yeah.
size,
You
and
wouldn't use that.
ideally we would want to narrow this down to like three sizes. So, but what's interesting is that all that needs to be done is in here, which could be done with like simulation tools. There's a physics simulation tool in Grasshopper just to get the faces to be aligned, because once the actual faces are the correct size, then it doesn't matter because the tessellation is just that. It's a very
Correct.
simple tessellation. It takes this and places it in each one of those faces.
Yes, and I guess once you've also narrowed it down to, let's say, three typicals, that semantic information would be in there, right? You would, and that's the way you construct it in document anyway. You see there are three panel types, A, B, C. A goes here, 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 here,
Correct.
here, and because of that, you can instance that geometry as well, right? So that would make it cheaper to go and generate that section. Um, in one regard, of course, the expensive bit would still be um, the projection of it, I guess. Anyway, it's there's still work to be done
Yeah.
here. I'm actually not the best person to be speaking about this. That would be Thomas Krein, and he knows the ins and outs of
Mm.
um, the tips and tricks of getting this stuff generated efficiently.
Cool. Great. Well, I don't know. I think we're done with the demo. What would you say?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
What you were saying?
no, no, no. Yeah, I think we
Eh,
got a few things done. We drew a small thing. We tossed some objects in there. We created some rooms. We saw an upside down roof for some reason. We found some bugs. We created some tags, and we talked about some of the things that would occur in the next releases and that we're working towards. Um,
Absolutely fantastic work, Dion. I mean, thank you so much for creating these tools because they're really pushing the tools in a way, in an open way, which allows uh, maybe the more technical designers out there and engineers and so on to help define what's actually important for us in the industry. And I've always talked about this. We've had conversations earlier as well that we have to be in control of the tools that we're producing because our interests are very different than the big companies' interests. Their interests lie with their shareholders and their continuous profit. Our interests lie in the fact of how do we make our job easier to generate buildings, to generate the data that's required to build those buildings.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, and it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you, and also importantly, the progress that's been made since we last talked. Um,
Yes,
so
a lot of progress indeed.
yeah, and it will just keep on going.
And
And I have seen people do council submissions with Blender BIM. Sometimes I wonder how do they do it. I see bugs like you just saw how I do it. I come up with like I get so many problems myself. How do they manage it? Hit save a lot. Lots of backups probably.
yeah.
uh, but they do it, and that's what surprises me.
Yeah.
And more people are doing it, so I guess it's just a matter of time. Uh, I mean, yeah, we'll just keep on fixing things, keep on making this better. There will come a point where, at least for small residential projects, small retail projects, small commercial fit outs, you can do it all with free software. And there's really no downside. It will be fun, it'll be friendly, there won't be bugs like that. Um, it's coming very, very soon. The foundations are there, it's just getting increasingly polished. Um, and from the other end of the spectrum as
Yes.
well, the acupunctural usage, that's also pushing it from the other end, and slowly they will meet, and that will be a very exciting day.
And now the FreeCAD is jumping on board as well, with
Absolutely.
incorporating OpenIFC. That's fantastic because I guess if FreeCAD and Blender BIM natively talk the same language, that means that perhaps Blender BIM sticks more to the geometry side of things, and FreeCAD could handle more of the drawing side of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the whole premise of this, that you can use the most appropriate tool, right? I mean, if you think of IFC as a big database, certain tools are good for
Yeah.
querying and manipulating this part of the data. Certain tools are good for querying and manipulating that part of the data. Use both. And in fact, that's why I make a distinction between the Blender BIM add-on for graphical authoring and the ecosystem of tools that IFC OpenShell has for non-geometric authoring, like spreadsheet-based authoring, which we're not demoing today, um, or in
Next
Gantt
time.
charts, or in as you say, drawings. Like, why can't I edit IFC drawings in Inkscape? Like, isn't that a good tool for doing it in? Or maybe it isn't. I don't know. Like, why can't I do my commissioning reports on a web-based thing with ISCJS, right? With where you have
And
200 forms.
ChatGPT,
Yeah,
you
we
know?
get them. Yeah. So yeah, there's a combination of interfaces which can and should be used. So it's very exciting.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Dion. Really appreciate it. And again, if anybody's interested, you can go to blenderbim.org to check out Blender. You can check out Dion's channels. He's very active on social media, right? Do you have a favorite platform, or do you like them all equally?
Yeah. just, it's
Yeah,
just social media.
things change in there, don't they? When billionaires start buying things up. and and then osarc.org is a place where you can catch a lot of discussion about Blender BIM as
Yeah,
well.
and all the other applications out there, the Git for Blender, the Homemaker, Topologic as well, and some FreeCAD news in there increasingly as well. So
Yep.
yes.
Starting to put in some data about tissue in there as
Oh,
well. See
fantastic.
how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an ecosystem.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you, Dimitar. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching to the end. No, really, thank you. There's so few of you that actually make it to the end that it's fantastic. You know all about Blender BIM now. And then, as mentioned in the beginning of the video, make sure you check out some of the more recent videos out there on Blender BIM, because the user interface has improved significantly. It's definitely a step in the right direction. Thank you to all the Patreons, and if you'd like to sponsor more content like this, then make sure you check out patreon.com/UHstudio. If you'd like to be notified of the latest podcast, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the notifications, because we've got some really interesting guests lined up. See you next time.